With over 13 million gamers on the platform, KGeN is building the next biggest gaming platform and ecosystem company out of India. And this is something that is being done by a person who has had a fantastic track record to build these kind of companies. Let's get into this deep dive conversation on the Double Down part with Manish Agarwal. So, welcome Manish to the Double Down Pod. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a really, really long time. I've known you for many years as an ex Microsoft colleague as well and as a friend. And I think we share the curiosity of a kid element and many conversations early morning when you're walking, and I'm also walking. We have. I just thought that this is going to be an amazing conversation simply because there is so much to unpack with your journey and what you're building today at KGeN, but the story started a long time back. So, to make things interesting, I just want to ask you a very straightforward question for which I also in 15 years don't have an answer. Like, why do you call yourself Diesel? So your LinkedIn profile says Manish Diesel Agarwal. What's the story behind it?
Chinmaya, you were my roommate, if you forgot, in Atlanta conference of Microsoft.
That's right.
And you have seen A, how much I drink, and I really don't get drunk.
Right.
The capacity is like massive. And
Right.
I think my seniors in IIM Ahmedabad saw it firsthand in the freshers' night. And
Hmm.
that was before the rechristening happens when you get your dorm names. So I think that kind of stuck, and so the name kind of the batch knows, and the juniors and seniors all know me as Diesel,
Okay.
and it just stuck. And when I was making the Gmail ID, Manish Agarwal is the most common name which you will find in Banias.
Right.
Manish and Agarwal. And
Right.
any North Indian phone directory, you will have multiple Manish Agarwals.
Right.
Um, so I said, yeah, I needed a Gmail ID, but I didn't want to do Manish123.
Right.
And Manish Agarwal, if you also think of it, in IIM Ahmedabad, my thing was Manish A, and people thought it's a beautiful girl, Manisha. And then when they were expected, and they will come to meet Manisha, and they will see him butchered,
Okay.
really coming out. So I didn't want to make it a Manisha or Manish Agrawal 123. So
Right.
I said, Diesel is something which anyway stuck with me. Why don't I create Manish Diesel as a common, my Twitter handle, my LinkedIn, my everywhere. So
Right.
that's how it continues to be Diesel. In
Awesome.
fact, I just mentioned my avatar in KGeN. That's also called Diesel.
Right, right, right. Oh, awesome, awesome. I didn't know about this story. I always felt there was something, peculiar about it, and I think good to know that it is also related to your other tank capacity that you just mentioned. All right. So Manish, I think in this double down pod, what we do is we want to kind of unpack the story of Manish, obviously, and then Manish is involved in several game changing initiatives, and we'll kind of follow that journey along. But the important point is that when I've come to know of you and your stellar track record, which is just a collage of so many different roles that you have played through the years, um, you know entertainment, building businesses, then scaling them to become IPO and public companies, that has all kind of stuck with you. So maybe let's start with that part of your journey, right? Like, what is it that constitutes the Manish of today, and where does this stack start to kind of come together? And you can start anywhere.
See, I think one thing which I think about myself is I'm a very high adrenaline junkie. Diesel story gives you a sense of my I want to be high in life,
Hmm.
and high in life is comes when you are willing to venture into unknown things. Like
Right.
I think the most stable job I would have done is levers. After that, it's been the story of completely, literally jumping out of the plane without having a security blanket,
Hmm.
and then trying to kind of figure out and desire to make it happen, right? It's not just you kind of think that I will have a dream, I'll have a vision, but just to make it happen, right? uh, when I left levers from a very, very lovely position of a high speed path, high track growth path, I came to internet. India was 50 million users.
Right.
There was no ecosystem, there was no policies, there was no government. There was Yahoo, Rediff.com, eBay, three companies, and I had no idea about product. I was not a comp science engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer,
Right.
uh, but kind of really thought that I can really build products. Now, I had no idea what product building means, right? But on the way, I'm very thankful to find right friends, right mentors who kind of really pushed and kept sharpening the thinking. And the hungry caterpillar in me and inquisitive child in me is the two fundamental ingredients which help me in constantly evolving
Mm.
the approach which I would take
Mm.
to build businesses in completely nascent unknown areas.
Got
Whether
it.
it is building products in internet very early, whether building freemium gaming in 2009-10, whether building esports in 2015-16, whether building gamified learning in 16-17, and now building KGeN in a Web3 blockchain, or disrupting the way value creation happens, because I took a conscious call that I'll not be equity company. I've done
Mm.
IPO. I don't want to do more of the same thing. I want to now build and disrupt a value creation which has been not disrupted in 400, 500,000 years.
Mm.
So if we are able to build a solid business and create a value in through a fraction ownership and economic sharing with your
Mm.
users, you're creating a
Right.
new way of value creation. So constantly pushing ourselves on and enjoying the unknown and shaping it is what I enjoy. Once it becomes mature, the Kida in me says, go and do something else.
Go something else. Do something else. Got it. Got it. So, Manish, you mentioned a little bit about this interesting creature called the caterpillar, which I got stuck on. What's the story behind it? Like, what is your thought process? Is it that metamorphosis of that happening in a closed shell over a period of time to become a beautiful creature like a butterfly? What's the story behind it?
So fundamentally, this story also stuck in my head, like the word stuck in your head, is since I since I was my elder one was a toddler, and we brought a lot of stories, and this was one story of hungry caterpillar, and there was a picture book, and there was a coloring book, and all that stuff of
Right.
something which is something which is not so pretty, metamorphosis into something very beautiful, but it's the constant evolution at every stage which keeps happening. And that's what I kind of really see, the unknown unknowns, which I say there is a steady state end result which I have in my mind, but when you start it, it may not be intuitive, it may not kind of intuitive to others, it may not look that pretty, it may not be clear, but you have a certain idea that where would it could land. And then
Hmm.
every stage of evolution really kind of makes it more clear to people what you want to do. And while it has been very clear to me that this is where I want to go, and
Hmm.
then being persistent about it and patient about it, and so that's what I call myself hungry caterpillar. Maybe this is also a handicap for me to not being able to create a good story or a storyteller to be able to
Hmm.
explain to people that what end state is, because I always believe and in my experience of 20 years that's happened, people didn't really think I would deliver this.
Hmm.
And when it happens, then they are surprised that he finally was able to deliver. And this has
Right.
happened many times. So while it is beautiful for me to have a self-belief and conviction, but it also gives me an introspection that maybe I'm not a good storyteller,
Hmm.
that I'm able to tell people the final vision and get them along with me when it was not that sexy.
Got it. Got it. No, that is very interesting and I think very deep as well because I think sometimes it takes many years to realize, what is the core that you are, right? And I think it's all about that process of discovery, and some of it kind of leads serendipitously to what you are doing right now. and some of it, takes a while. People call it sometimes midlife crisis, sometimes discovery, sometimes spiritual journey. But I get it what you're saying. But I know it's very interesting, Manish. I think, and I'm going to reflect back on our years together during the Microsoft days, right? Like I instantly got along with you because I think, one, I realized that I was going to learn a lot together with you. It's really not about, although we were in different teams at that point in time, but I think I had a thinking mind, you had a thinking mind, and we were constantly kind of bringing those pieces together to solve this problem for, let's say, Microsoft, right? And we were doing this work for the developer ecosystem at that point in time, which was, I think, one of the biggest for Microsoft. And this curiosity that you talked about, and then when we went to Atlanta, we were walking around and we went to the Coke Museum, if you remember, right? And we were, I think, engrossed in so many discussions during that time. Everybody else was out partying and everybody else was kind of out drinking, and you and me were the only people who were actually going into the museum and checking out everything on Coke's journey. And the marketing conversation was really like 2 hours, right? So I think, starting with that perspective, right? You're kind of, I think that you're always soaking, things as a sponge, and then I think it processes in your head, and then you kind of turn it around. So you did this at Microsoft. How was the journey after that, right? Like, where did you I think you ended up at Reliance, and you were at UTV. So, talk to me a little bit till the time you kind of went into Nazara.
So I think Microsoft was a good test for me, Chinmaya.
Hmm.
Honestly, that I am a misfit in a multiple large organization. So I gave it a try with all my passion, did well, as you know, but I also realized that for the butterfly to fly,
Hmm.
the if you were to zoom out, you are flying in a predefined box, and I wanted to fly wherever I want to fly, right?
Hmm.
So, and I don't know, life is beautiful. Serendipity happens. I got a call from Mr. Manish Kruwala. Um, I had a nice chat, and he said, "Do you want to do? Are you excited about media and entertainment?"
Hmm.
And I said, "I'm a consumer of it, and I'm an avid movie content consumer, and I would love to kind of really convert some of the psychology, consumer content understanding on mobile devices."
Hmm.
And he said, "Let's do it." So I'm thankful to him to bring me to media and entertainment in 2009.
Hmm.
And since then, I've been doing passive entertainment first through video content, then interactive entertainment through gaming, uh, UTV, then Reliance. Uh, Beautiful opportunity. Again, necessity is the mother of invention. I had a large set of businesses under me. They were kind of really struggling. I had to take existential decisions for the company.
Hmm.
And fundamentally, I took a completely contrarian bet that I'll short India, I'll kind of short businesses which are there because they were all legacy. I'll take a bet on a business which is non existent. I'll
Hmm.
build freemium games for US on mobile. There was no playbook of that in India.
Right.
There was no playbook of that globally also because it was paid on PC and paid
Correct.
on mobile, and freemium was just coming in.
Right.
And I'm thankful again for people to believe that yes, let's try it out. Anyway, there is no too much of downside, and upside can be huge if this guy delivers, and that
Hmm.
belief creates more positive reinforcement that people are taking a punt on you, and you're taking a punt on yourself. Let's kind of make it happen. So
Got it.
I think that's one part. Second part is I always in when we were successful in gaming, I always have that streak in me that if you build a local ecosystem, and that was thankful to our days in TPE when we were
Hmm.
doing developer evangelism.
Right.
I saw how the skilling development, how the sense of belonging of a community really helps you in mid to long term on building businesses. I
Right.
applied that thinking when I was in Alliance to build a very strong affinity and connect with the game developer ecosystem by openly sharing. And what I'd seen in Finland, what I'd seen in Canada, what I'd seen in US community of gaming, because
Right.
I was very, I learned through that transparent sharing, and I wanted to bring that culture here, and then openly shared on many things with that community, and invested in building game jams, invested in building hackathons, gameathons, uh,
Mm.
bubbling it up to national, because if I am able to build good developers, as a publisher, it will help me in some time, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that really helped me to kind of get very strongly networked and connected in the local ecosystem. Being an outsider, not being a gamer, selling detergents, doing some Microsoft stack selling, which developers hated, to kind of really becoming part of the developer ecosystem of gaming, which is
Mm.
very nascent. I think all of them were unknown playbooks, right? You have to
Right.
keep thinking about it, as you said, keep soaking from industries. And
Right.
to me, it was Apple versus Microsoft, or Linux versus Unix kind of a system. And you
Hmm.
said that if you want to build an ecosystem, you need to do it.
To do
And
it. To do
how
it.
to do it, go do it.
Right. 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 It's very interesting because I think you mentioned something. Was this also the first time that you had like you mentioned other countries beyond India? Was it the first time that you kind of started to kind of pick up those vibes from this international exposure, which I think now is going to be very relevant for KGeN? But I think is that the seed that got planted that time?
So I'll tell you a story which, besides my close family and friends, don't know. I was xenophobic till
Hmm.
I joined Microsoft, and
That's why we hung around a lot together in Atlanta.
Atlanta was my first trip outside India.
Right.
I was so scared at the immigration. Um, when I went for US visa, the kind of treatment they were giving to Indians I didn't like at
Hmm.
the visa office in Delhi. And I'm a very proud Indian.
Right.
So I didn't like being heckled just because everybody is clamoring for US visa. And then I
Right.
was scared that I will not be able to answer at the immigration counter. They will ask me God knows what. And I
What?
had created so much of Hawa in my head that
Right.
I'll be deported, I'll be sent, I'll not be happening. And this is the Manish who had now traveled in 2009. And after that,
Right.
my entire gaming career happened because I traveled, I don't think, except the North Pole and all of it, I've traveled to all continents.
Right.
And that exposure of what's happening outside will happen in India helped me in building my thesis and
Hmm.
doing some things which I did at strategy level and an operation level and at a people level, which
Right.
helped me in Reliance and which helped me in Nazara.
Understood. 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 I think this is fascinating because I think you kind of it is like a personal victory, right? Once you're able to kind of break those chains, and I think I can step out and now I can soak in from other places that I'm not used to soaking in from.
Correct.
Fantastic.
And today,
Got it.
like for
And
example, any youngsters which come to me, and
hmm,
even in family, I said travel, travel, travel,
hmm,
because the cultural mix, the perspective building, the openness to ideas, that's the best way to learn. A classroom will help you building some fundamental frameworks, but the
right.
real application will happen when you're talking to people, seeing applications and using them, and how people are using them. That's the best way to do it.
I completely agree with you, and I think to a great extent, I think we are blessed because I think uh, we had the chance of kind of using the internet to be able to kind of break out of our
Correct.
our kind of limited well, and then
Correct.
now we can get access to so many things in the world, which obviously by the time we were kind of passing out of college or stuff like that was not there, right? It was completely a new territory, but a hurdle nonetheless for us to cross. So moving on from here, right? Like so you did this for UTV, got this fantastic exposure, and then you took a couple of bets for Reliance, right? You kind of went to as CEO of Reliance Digital Entertainment as well, right? So what was the story like there, right? And then let's just then move to the next
No,
level.
I think it's very simple. To me, organization changed, but fundamental that it's entertainment. And if I was to use dirty picture, entertainment, 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 right?
Got it. That became your home. That became your calling.
That became my calling. And within that entertainment, interactive entertainment became even more exciting to me because you can shape behavior at a segment of one.
Hmm.
And that segment of one, you know, the research guy, both of us are always fascinated that at individual level, if you can really shape behaviors and create cause and effects,
Right.
uh, that's the dream of every product marketeer, product manager, monetization, digital monetization guy. So
Absolutely.
gaming really stuck to me that way, and the the humility, the third part of which gaming brings,
Right.
is if anyone in the world most successful founder says, "I know how to make the next best game,"
Hmm.
uh, if he's a gaming true founder, he will never say that.
Right.
Because all of us know that you start from zero every time you start a new game, right? You
Right.
can apply as much as learning, but then there is so many moving pieces which need to get right that you may, and that humility brings you down from penthouse to basement. So what I also learned in my 15 years, there is no permanent penthouse or basement. So
Hmm.
don't get demotivated when you think you are down, and don't get
Right.
very high when you're penthouse.
Right.
I always say you are always in the transient state between
Right.
penthouse and basement.
Yeah.
And if you have that equanimity of thinking, you would succeed in gaming.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's such a fundamental point, Manish, because I also believe in the same thing, right? You should have your bags ready. You don't know
Correct.
where the destination is. I think the bags should be always ready to figure out what's the next adventure, right?
Correct. So to
Uh,
me, that's the common thing which really happened.
right.
And then you understand the mark. The last thing in gaming is the change is constant.
Hmm.
So if you are kind of wedded to building games, when I was building Nokia games for OV Store, we became the world's largest publisher because that point of time you are giving a 2 minute entertainment to a user.
Right. Right.
From there, making games for Apple, when you are kind of really giving them a day 360, day 180 retention, you
Right.
have to you have to figure out a progression content, right?
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
when you're building esports, you're building a 30 seconds high sports fan sports experience, and that's
Right.
what you're really building a friend community experience which you're doing. So
Right.
entertainment is the constant. The context of that entertainment, if you understand, you can figure out how to build businesses.
Got it. Got it. Absolutely. Great. No, this is fantastic. And so, Manish, so, and this, so I can now see the journey kind of moving and taking shape towards interactive and gaming, and entertainment kind of coming together. So you then land up in Nazara and you spend the longest time there, right? Out of all your career stints, you spend the longest time in Nazara. So I'm very curious to, I've had the good luck of also talking to Nitish several times, and he's a great guy, down to earth, love to hear his saxophone, at times. uh, how did that thing come about, right? And then you kind of were the professional CEO, but you almost felt like a founder whenever I spoke to you during your Nazara days. Like, what was that thing like, and what did that journey kind of become over the number of years that you spent there?
I think the statement which you said that you're a professional CEO but you felt like founder, I think the entire 100% credit goes to Nitish and the board
Right.
because that's the trust and confidence they had.
Right.
He will take the right decisions and has the right emotional maturity to take all the stakeholders along with him, right?
Right.
So you have somebody who is not taking rash decisions, who is not accountable for his decisions. I think that they had a full trust, and it didn't harm that Nitish and I are very close friends since 2012 13 till date.
Right.
So
Right.
it's more like friends working together, and I think that's all. You are a VC, and you always look at in founders how is their founder chemistry, right?
Hmm.
So I think that chemistry is amazing, was amazing, and will always be amazing, and that's what made this journey while the longest, but the most enjoyable, right? Because it's not. Somebody told me that a lot of people hear about glory, but they
Hmm.
don't know the stories behind that glory, right?
That's right.
And
That's
those
right.
stories, when the chips are down, how do you really kind of uh, deal with it? How do you really have an art of possibility to ensure that you get to that beautiful butterfly stage
Right.
uh, when you yourself are not seeing end of the end at the tunnel, right?
Right.
That's where having two people who are talking to each other, who understand each other, is important. Otherwise, it becomes very lonely, right?
Right.
So Nazara was the mandate was very clear that we need to be the eminent gaming company in India. We
Right.
have the foundation, but the business models need to evolve. The business model which was running was not the business model which can take us to future, which has brought us to here.
Right.
So if the new business model have to come, what could they be?
Hmm.
And it's like changing the tire of a moving bus, right?
Right. Right.
And you don't have a luxury of starting from zero and saying that, okay, next 5 years I'm in my hibernation and I will
Hmm.
do what needs to be done. You have
Right.
investors who have a lifetime, and you are a VC. VCs have a time period kind of exit, and you are responsible to get them exit, right?
Right.
Uh, you during and I think our worst time was when we had launched our IPO first time and we failed to fill the book. And I
Hmm.
had no idea, Nitish had no idea how the IPOs are done. We were like two youngsters, and and we were told that IPO, let's do IPO, and we said,
Right.
we are here to go to all boardrooms. We are here to explain to them
Right.
as succinctly, as clearly the strategy and numbers.
Right.
Now, we trusted that there is a method to this madness which experienced machines know.
Hmm.
And the market, then we realize there's something called macro, there's something environment which can go turtle, and even your best stories can't happen. And
Right.
that was like your, it was public, and we had kind of really taken, we had become public, we had issued some shares to other investors, and
That's
that
right.
2018 to 20 was a building time and managing the investors who had come with the hope of seeing the public launch of IPO
Correct.
very soon.
Correct. Yep.
So managing them and kind of building an organization in public layer, right, is what I learned. That you are in the public scrutiny and you are building it, but you are building it 0 to 10, 0 to
Right.
100 businesses. How?
Right.
What should be your strategy? It can't be the
Right.
same strategy as a private seed stage company. It has to be a
Right.
very different strategy. And I
Right.
think Nish and I really dug our heels and we said, screw it, let's do it.
Right, right, right. No, so that's a story of resilience, because if you look at it, from a personality perspective, it may have kind of become a little boring stuff to do, because it's like a process and you have to follow everything. There are like requests coming in, the compliances, everything else needs to happen. But there is something magical also about it, because this was like the first gaming company out of India which is ever going to go an IPO. I think all eyes were on you guys. And then, on top of that, you had star investors as the legendary Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in the mix, right? Uh, why was he involved in a gaming company? That's another conversation maybe we should think about, and maybe you can share and throw some light on it. But I think it'd be fascinating to learn like what happened to Manish during that time. What did Manish become? Stepping out of his comfort zone, maybe developing completely new skills as a public market CEO. What was that kind of feeling like? And then obviously, do tell us about what it was to be in a room like filled with Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's wisdom.
I think it was basically, in my mind, I had clearly decided there is no other option but to make it success.
Hmm.
And it had kind of become a ego thing that I don't want to see myself as a failed IPO CEO, right?
Right.
Once you have clearly decided that this is it,
Hmm.
and there is nothing, um, you are not looking out for another job. You are
Right.
not looking out for another opportunity.
Right.
And see, all of us have gone through this tapasya of IIT exam or IIM exams, and once you decide it, um, you build that mental strength.
Hmm.
You trained it over.
Determined.
Your mentally strength has been trained over since childhood, because
Right.
that was the only thing which you were supposed to do. And once you've decided that this is it, uh, then whatever it takes, it needs to be done. Now, I believe nothing is rocket science. And I believe the worst thing is a non gamer designing games and making money out of it. If I could do that, dealing with investors was much more easier here, right?
Hmm.
Because you're dealing with millions of consumers with heterogeneous cohorts of I don't know how many size.
Right.
Uh, Investors broadly are two, three cohorts, right? And if you are a game designer, you understand psychology pretty well. So to me, that transition was not very difficult. Once it was
Hmm.
clear that um, Nazara would be the company which would be listed, and this will get listed under our joint watch. I think that is was the decision, and we said, screw it, we'll do it, but let's kind of do it our way this time,
Right.
uh, and we will have a control of our destiny because the experience taught that once you want to win, then you need to know all the levers of the game. And if you don't know the levers of the game, then you are flying blind, and then you
Right.
can't win,
Right.
right? You need to know the game economy. You need to know the game elements. And to
Right.
me, it was a game which was being played in real life. That's how I saw it, and I said, I need to crack this game,
Right.
and 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 who's the game master? I don't know, and I've learned a lot from Bhaiya, who was a master in this game, and why he came into gaming, because I've never seen a gentleman who is as more childlike curiosity. I thought I have a childlike curiosity. He is amazing childlike curiosity with a business acumen of saying that this would be a mega industry and I need to be the first one to take a bet on it.
Hmm.
His belief was unwavering. Even when we didn't do IPO, it was unwavering. And he said, "No problem. You guys are good builders. Go and build."
Hmm.
Obviously, when we'll do wrong, it's like a child going to his parent and he will get rapped on knuckles, right?
Okay.
So you would get rapped on knuckles, and that rapped on knuckles sometimes you felt like in a normal relationship and with your parents, you feel sometimes they're right to rap you,
Right.
sometimes they are not right, and that's the same feeling you always get, right?
Right.
Um, so you live with that. Now you can say when it is wrong, what do you do? You realize that the there is a larger objective and you all of you are aligned on that objective. You kind of
Right.
really don't even bother about it and don't take it to your head or heart.
Right. Right. That mission driven determination and laser focus. I
Laser
think that
focus. Yeah.
that saw you through. Whenever I talked to you during that time frame, and I just had so much of clarity always popping out of you. It was like amazing. And I think what I really admired about you as well, and the whole Nazara team, was the fact that I think thinking was very global in nature, right? Even if you were doing IPO in India, the global thinking was demonstrated, right? Like all the acquisitions that Nazara did, leading up to a beautiful story coming together. I think that must have also taught you a lot, right? Like, how do these acquisitions work? How do you integrate this into your culture, into your vision, and the long term story, right? That also must have been a fascinating process, right?
Yeah, again, necessity, right?
Hmm.
Depth of India market isn't that great or wasn't that great.
Right.
Now, you have to really kind of create certain scale,
Hmm.
and you have to create that scale with certain profitability.
Right.
Uh, Now, if you have those defining constraints, right, then its decision is obviously made that you need to go out and figure it out.
Right.
And given that both of us have been around for long, the access to network, right, and it's not a banker job that you can have a banker and bankers can kind of figure it out.
Right.
The stage we were in, the only currency we had was the experience, track record, goodwill of the 10, 15 years. And that currency is what we kind of really leveraged to kind of bring founders who have believed in us that we will be able to unlock their value more
Hmm.
efficiently than what they could do themselves. Right?
Understood. Right.
So I think that's the only thing which we did. And thankfully, every other founder whom we really brought has made money, has got really seen the promise getting fulfilled,
Hmm.
and that really had created huge amount of goodwill for brand Nazara. And that's when we also, when we did IPO, we had an opportunity to price it maybe 70, 80% more than what we priced. but we didn't want to price it because we wanted to again continue that goodwill to the brand Nazara.
Right. Right. Got it. Got it. Interesting. So when all of that happened, you finally had the title that you have a company. You're a CEO who has kind of taken a company public. You're done and dusted. You wanted to do something clearly more, and then this was the time when I think the Web3 wave was still kind of shaping up in India. Like, what was the thinking behind what you have started now? And at that time, it was, I think, IndieGG, and then it kind of moved into this kind of a new avatar. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But what was your thinking then? Like, what was the thinking after having sit? A lot of company founders think that IPO is the milestone. It's done. I'm a CEO now. I should probably retire and probably do a, become a VC or become a philanthropist or maybe sit in the government and probably advise on some futuristic possibility without dirtying my hands, which I don't agree with anymore, because till the time you do have till the time you don't dirty your hands, you cannot claim to kind of do something moving forward and visionary for India. But that's a separate discussion altogether. But I think what I'm saying is that fundamentally IPO becomes a milestone that people want to achieve, and then they kind of fade away into different zones. But you clearly didn't fade away, and it kind of gave you some other bug. Still trying to figure out what that bug is.
Yeah, I think the bug is common. The moment you have more of the same thing, you will see me getting
Hmm.
irritated with myself, right? I always have a very simple thing. Thank God it's Monday, and that's what is my purpose. That
Right.
honestly, if you make me do the same thing again and again, I will get bored, right?
Hmm.
We had
Right.
created a playbook. That playbook was working very nicely.
Hmm.
There was a team which could really take that playbook ahead. Um, the life was becoming predictable,
Right.
and anything which is predictable is not exciting, right?
Right.
Had I decided about blockchain, I think I started reading it. Uh, but again, from first principles point of view, creating another company, taking it to public, is not exciting. वो हो गया है ठीक है. If
Right.
somebody say you did $1 billion company, you can do $100 billion company, absolutely
Right.
legit. But to me, the process and achieving that was exciting. 1 to 100 then is a different scale, and you will learn a lot. But the incremental excitement versus completely disruptive excitement, I
Right.
think that is something which I wouldn't have got. So to me, the new way of value creation, which blockchain offered, was exciting, right?
Hmm.
Having seen and read about the rug pulls, pump and dump, this and that, all the kind of Ponzi schemes, it is such a place where people say that nothing real is built,
Right.
right? Now you are kind of really taking a challenge to yourself that you will build something real in that space in which nobody trusts. Where how would you kind of really stand out and tell people, convince people that you are not one of the hundreds of projects which
Right.
is really going to really take the token up and the token will go down, you will scam some people and then you will run away, right? To
Right.
me, A, disrupting the value creation, B, in a space where there is a huge amount of mistrust.
Right.
Literally, mistrust is the first thing, trust comes later, right?
Right.
How do you do that? And you are kind of
Hmm.
risking now your prime years on proving to yourself that you can gain trust of people, not just in India but
Right.
globally, with a
Right.
brown face. And whether we like it or not, brown face is not something which creates intuitive trust. uh, it is an handicap. So you have
Hmm.
an handicap. You are operating in an area where everybody thinks everybody is a rug puller,
Right.
and you are trying to kind of build a business from zero. So there are so many um, beautiful opportunities, as I say,
Right.
for this
Because the
caterpillar.
expectations are also low.
Expectation is zero, and your expectation from yourself is so high,
So high.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now. So as I said in the earlier, people don't believe that A, this could be done, B, you could do this, C, they think, why the do you want to waste your time in doing this?
Right. Right.
I am seeing something and I'm smoking something, or I'm seeing something I don't know, but I am determined to make it happen.
Right.
Uh, One thing which I realize is the word which you say is resilience and perseverance,
Hmm.
because the excess of time expands for myself, because that is not a factor for me to
Right.
really get perturbed about.
Right.
Now, the I think that's the biggest alpha which I bring to crypto versus any other founder, is that there is a reason they want to hurry to launch their token,
Right.
and I'm very very okay that we launch token when we think is the right thing.
Right.
So that excess of time is the biggest differentiator and alpha which KGeN has, right, versus any other crypto project.
Right, right, right. Great. I think this is a great segue to now enter into the territory of KGen, right? And I think fundamentally, some of the pieces that I want to kind of reiterate through this conversation is also this, right? That you said the opportunity for building always exists, even if the market perception of an industry is not too great, right? And sometimes the devil is in the detail. Actually, all the time the devil is in the details. You have to go 3, 4, 5 levels down. So if I know of people who are blockchain engineers, people who've been kind of working on this. Obviously, crypto kind of fell off the cliff for investors also, all over the world, because of all this, Ponzi schemes and other things that you defined. There were events that happened, unfortunately, that took away from the whole promise of Web3 and the technology depth that was getting built, right? And I think the point that we should now get into is really, for double down perspective, is the KGen building model, right? It's a building. To me, what it means is that there is a foundation, there is a protocol, there are other features and layers that have to be built, with great amount of technical innovation, and a great team has to kind of back that up. And then there is this extraordinary level of transparency that, by fundamental first principles of Web3, you have to have, right? So if you really want to build that trust, you have to have that transparency, and then you have to have the ability to kind of build out in public. So I think, coming to KGen now, I see all of these elements kind of playing out. And to a great starting point of that conversation, I think, would be to say, hey, listen, this is a global company right from day zero, right? So, define for us, what do you think of KGen right now? What is it? What is KGen? So let if the listeners want to understand what is KGen, what is KGen today, right? Because there's no one definition it will fit under. I can give you many, but I want to know from you, what does KGen mean?
KGen is a very simple. It's a community of gamers by gamers, and who are here collectively
Right.
across the world, coming together to really a claim their legacy, b, use that ownership of legacy to partake in the value chain of gaming globally, which they have never been part of,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So KGen is a movement. KGen is not just a tech platform. KGen in spirit is basically giving the right back to the gamers, which has never been theirs.
Right. And this is, and when you say this, it's, I think, the way I kind of visualize it, and there are some amazing blogs that your CTO has written, Srini. I kind of read through it, and it'll kind of refer to it in the show notes as well. I think people should go through it and understand what KGen is built about, built from. um, I think you're keeping, obviously, the gamer in the center, and kind of empowering the gamer and taking away from all the aspects where this gamer was going to be exploited by different platforms. So you kind of pay for platform fee. You don't own your assets. You don't know you own your identity. Whatever you do in the game, whether you are kind of upgrading your skill or not upgrading your skill, you're kind of losing it out once you're out of that ecosystem, right? So you're a captive gamer. You're not free. uh, I think that is clearly something that KGen is disrupting, right? So now, but when you look at it, it is the whole ecosystem. You're building like a platform play, right? Explain to us that platform play. Like, what are the audiences that you are kind of catering to, and then who's getting involved in this?
See, at the heart of it, we are building a universal reputation framework for gamers. It's like chess elo rating or ATP ranking of tennis.
Hmm.
What we want to do is we want to free up gamers from the closed ecosystems of captive gamers, as you said, and
Right.
we want to give them a universal reputation.
Right.
Completely captures their activities, history across games, across ecosystems, so that they can really have something to kind of flex. They could have something to kind of really leverage for getting a differential. A Chinmay is a better gamer than Manish, and Chinmay should get a better economic value returns coming from there versus Manish, right?
Right.
So we want to build an universal reputation framework for gamers. That's the heart of KG, right?
Got it.
As you rightly said, the, the the there are so many deep layers to build and to kind of really achieve this is what the magic lies in the different stack components, right?
Right.
But the building block of this universal reputation framework is that it should be permissionless. Because if Chinmay needs a permission to monetize it, to delete it, to take it away, then he
Right.
doesn't own it.
Hmm.
The fundamental definition of ownership is I can do whatever I want to do without asking somebody, right? And that's the heart of this whole platform is in terms of ownership definition.
Right.
And to deliver this permissionless ownership is what you needed a blockchain, because then your reputation is a soul bound token which is non transferable, but it is owned by you, and
Right.
that can be taken to any ecosystem,
Right.
right?
So in simple terms, if you were to just like translate it for layman, right? Like, so I as a gamer have an identity. I could be playing multiple games, and I have built my skills in a particular, you know, format or game, and then I have spent money on also buying assets in that game. All of this now centrally becomes and comes under my ownership, and then I can carry this reputation engine or reputation identity, through proof of gaming, proof of human, and other things that you talk about, into different ecosystems for the benefit of myself and for the benefit of the community. And then ultimately this entire engine also powers and becomes significantly valuable for the whole ecosystem. I think the next, this diagram that is there, and we'll share it with everyone. You have the game publishers, you have the developers, you have the community of gamers, and then all of these pieces come together through the KGeN infrastructure and different set of tools and platforms that you've developed. And talk to us a little bit about each of those, right? Like if you can maybe walk us through. I just want to use this as a reference because this is just, I think brilliant. When you look at gamers, what do they get? Let's start with that. Like, what do they get on the platform?
So we built very simple thing. We said gamers love to have fun with their friends because they
Right.
like to play games, right?
Right.
So can we really give them an opportunity to play with their friends some new games and their
Right.
existing games? So that's the basic thing which a gamer wants. Then we said gamer is also a human being, and fundamental the three dimensions which human beings really react to. Besides the sense of belonging, there is an earning element, right? So, if you can really look at the Maslow and you say that somebody is able to, at the basic level, the economic security is there, and economic security can come from increasing opportunities to earn
Right.
or creating opportunities to save, right? Then you are kind of taking the base level effect. Second, if you kind of give them emotional high of becoming famous, and they don't need to become famous globally, even in their hyper local community, if they become famous,
Right.
they feel that I am valued, I am respected, and that creates huge amount of boost in their confidence, which creates a beautiful flywheel, right? And then the third thing is when you create communities, and we are all human beings driven by governance, and you can kind of do decentralization of governance rights at a community level and at a platform level. People feel that this is my thing, it's not that somebody else is writing the rules. I am
Right.
participating or collaborating in writing the rules. So
Right.
we have three principles of earning, fame, and power, right? That really is what we are build. Our job is to build tools, as you rightly said, to make them famous. And how
Right.
have we done? We have kind of organized this in a beautiful kind of a network state, to kind of use what Balaji says. Uh, Here, the network is nothing but think of the our organic chemistry and multiple uh, molecules, and you are saying that each clan is integrated with another clan, and this diagram of the clans is what KGeN is.
Understood.
And each clan is nothing but gamers, and these gamers, you need somebody to who is hustling around to bring all of them together, is called clan
Right.
chief.
Right. Right.
So a gamer gets earning fame power, and the gaming communities is organized into multiple micro communities,
Right.
which are hanging together because they are contextually together in a college, they are contextually together in a city, they could
Right.
be in the same Discord. So it's a contextual belongingness which exists in real life. You are bringing them onto the platform.
Right. Right. So you and the amazing feature that I thought was also very interesting is that it kind of applies to both the Web 2 format of games and the Web 3 format of the games, right? So Web 3, which is
See,
typically blockchain ready.
we believe a gamer doesn't really have this Web
Care.
2, Web 3 in their mind.
Correct.
This is only the differentiation we have in the head.
Right.
As I said, gamers want to play good games with their friends. Now,
Right.
if Web 2, Web 3 are fundamentally the economic value sharing technology, and we have made a huge hue and cry around Web 2, Web 3. So for
Right.
us, it's gamers engagement, gamers data,
Community.
the gamers community, and then gamers community coming together to
Right.
really talk to the advertisers, which are game
Right.
publishers,
Right.
right? And the
Right.
game publishers, we wanted to fundamentally solve for game publishers, which is the another very strong stakeholder for KGeN,
Right.
is you and I both know that the monies which go from VC go to Facebook and Google as advertising, right?
Right.
That's a bulk of your cost, and that is creates massive amount of mortality for the companies, because if
Right.
their ROAS is not happening, and gradually the CACs are increasing for LTVs don't happen, right?
Right.
So we
Right.
wanted to change that and disrupt it by saying that we are not going to sell top of the funnel. We are giving the engagement, and we are giving a curated gamer cohort to engage with the game. So
Right.
your ROI or ROAS is much, much higher for a publisher. So the
Right.
number of companies which can survive the death valley can increase. So the definition of value for me is that if KGeN were not to exist,
Right.
will gamers miss you? Will publishers miss you?
Right.
Right? That's to me is the value. It's not value on the how many billion dollar, million dollar, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And that way, we have worked with now publishers for last 2 years, which have
Right.
come to us because their ability to get really good power gamers who
Right.
are engaging is much, much better than Meta and Google.
Right. Right. Just hold on to that thought before we kind of move to the publishers. I think just on the gamers front, because I think the proof is in the pudding, right? So, uh, 13 million gamers on the platform right now. Is that
As
correct?
of January, because what you're quoting is December data, not the
That's right.
January data.
That's
So
right.
we have 14.5 million gamers as of January end.
14.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
Awesome.
have 14.5 million gamers as of January end.
Right.
The beauty is that we have 400, almost 350 or 370 million, exact number I'm not clear, but that's a number of attributes we have for the
So
gamers.
these are attributes are basically nothing but activity related pieces of a gamer, right? So this could be person, what
So
play
what we have done
games.
is we have classified into five cohorts,
Hmm.
right? And each cohort has a reason to exist. Proof of human kind of really gives you that the guys are not bots,
Right.
right? Proof of play gives you a level of which genre, how much you play, what's your progression, all that stuff.
Right.
The proof of skill is a unique one, which nobody has in the world. Is that are you a tester? Are you a esports athlete? Are you a Discord manager? Are you a community contributor? Are you a content creator? So
Wow.
fundamentally, all the publishing roles which people need, we are creating that skill, and when we're creating a leveling up of the skills so that the
Right.
publishing can be decentralized, and we are disrupting publishing.
Right.
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 Proof of commerce is basically what you purchase, how much you spend. And
Absolutely.
proof of social network is very important because the K factor in gaming is a very important aspect because
Mm.
you need to have a very high sense of the organic users which are coming through your referrals versus your paid marketing.
Right.
So, which is very important that you have found people who are connectors, who are networkers, who are having their own followership in Discord on KGeN. So we have kind of really created each of these five cohorts, which are relevant
Right.
for publishers, because you need to understand the first principle of community was make money, save money, and that can only happen when you are making something for people who are going to pay you.
Right. Right.
Right. So
Absolutely.
the way I think is you're building those tools for gamers, but somebody has to pay, and hence the data has to
Right.
be structured and organized in a manner that it becomes usable and relevant for the people who want to pay.
Right, right, right. And I think this is really cutting edge, because I think if you just look at the number of attributes that you just described, 300 million that you're collecting at this point in time. And again, you kind of do this in the public, people who are playing these games or part of the community, they understand what you're collecting very clearly. It's all kind of out there in public and transparently. But I think this data is the new oil story really comes to life when you stitch it all together with algorithms, with scoring, with weights. So there are data scientists in your team who are probably working behind the scenes trying to churn this out. And the applicability of this capability, into the next world of AI, wherever we are headed, is so deep and relevant that you have to kind of build constantly on it. So I think this is one of the points that I wanted to highlight, because I think you have to see that Manish and the KGeN team, Ishank and everyone else did not start to think that they will need this future. But what they started with was the gamer in the center, and saying, how do we empower the gamer in this community? And then making sure that everybody is in the service of this gamer community, whether it's the publishers, and publishers obviously need the elements to serve this audience right. Right. So we'll now, so to establish firmly, we have 14.5 million gamers on the platform and with the communities. We've got 300 million attributes. Uh, I also see that the revenue that you published, it was 18.4 million for December. I think this is one of the greatest things for a person to see, for a private company getting published on LinkedIn. Your profitability state is also kind of showing there, how your ARR has been tracking year on year. And then, good to see that your 2024 exit was on the green side, right? Uh, what does this mean to you? Are people reacting to this data that they are seeing from you? What kind of reactions do you get? And you have a stellar list of investors. We will talk about it. You've got Excel, you've got Nexus, you've got Prosos, I think. Yeah, you've got Polygon, you've got Aptos Labs. These are all top investors. What do they feel about this data when they see it in the public and everybody sees it in the public domain? Because private companies don't publish it like that.
So Chinmay, I think I mentioned about our unsuccessful attempt for IPO.
Hmm.
And after that, every quarter, I met the same investors whom I had met during that process. And I kept updating them for next 12 quarters
Yeah.
without really needing to do that. And when finally we kicked off in September 20, I had my full book done without even kicking off.
Hmm.
And the only thing reason why it was there because you were consistent in your communication and you
Right.
were consistent in sharing the parameters, and they could really kind of keep a track that on he has not wavered on those parameters. What he projected is what he's delivering, and he's coming to meet us consistently.
Right.
That creates massive trust.
So Manish, you've basically, you've changed the definition of storytelling, right? Most of the storytelling, this assumption in the world is that, you should be able to craft a nice pitch, you should be able to go up and show up, and, you should be able to speak really well, and then walk out by wowing people based on some other formula of, presentation. But what you're really telling is demonstrate with your work, demonstrate with your data, build it the way you want to show how you're building, and then that's it. That's enough for storytelling. In today's world, you don't need to be a great storyteller from a verbal connotation perspective to be able to demonstrate that. And so many deep tech entrepreneurs, they can't speak very well and are not fluent, but it doesn't mean that they're not getting investors. And that's really one of the biggest differentiators. This is one of the myths that I want to bust with people, that if you're building, that's what investors care about, nothing else, right?
Yeah, that approach takes time,
It approach
right?
takes time. You have to
This is
compound your credibility, absolutely, like
this is
you've done over your
this is
career.
like this is like grinding in the game.
Grinding in the game.
There are quest and quest
Absolutely,
and
well said.
quest. There are quests, and you keep doing those quests and keep hitting it, keep hitting it, keep hitting it.
So keep
Uh,
improving yourself on the leaderboard.
exactly. So that is it is a massive discipline and determination which is needed, and which is why um, it builds. It is like a slow burn, but when it
Right.
does, it cements it, right?
Got it. Got it.
Uh, but it is not uh, the. I would not say that this is a substitute for storytelling. For me, this is the only way I know how to deal with it,
How to
right?
storytell. Yeah, this is your unique way of storytelling.
My view is I believe I'm a karmyogi, and I can
Right.
only kind of demonstrate to people uh, quarter on quarter. So in KGeN, we only it's been October 22 when we did the first inception.
Right.
November 22 is the first monthly update, and from there till date, we have never missed a monthly update. And it's not that monthly update goes to only lead investors. Any investor whom we have met and has not invested also gets the same information.
That's right. And the
So we have,
community.
and so we have 154 investors, and
Right.
it increases every month who keeps coming. Whether you respond or not respond, we send you,
You said it.
right?
That's true building in the public.
Second thing is not a single monthly town hall with community and with our
Right.
team has missed.
Right.
And it is the same investor update which goes there. And
Got it.
then LinkedIn, Twitter, we transparently put it and it's on our site.
Got it.
So my strong belief is that your consistent, transparent way of operating will build that goodwill, which will be able to differentiate you in Web3 space from projects which are people don't trust and they think it's not Ponzi, it's Ponzi. My way of kind of really doing it is, as I mentioned to you, the one alpha which I have is time. And how do I use that time? By showing consistent month on month performance and transparently putting it out so that people
Right.
know that this is building a business using token as a value creation, not token as a means to make money only.
Understood. Understood. Let's move on to the game studios and the publishers. Now, what's in it for them on KGen?
It's very simple. I've been a publisher for last 15, 16 years.
Right.
Publishers really have a very simple ratio, LTV CAC ratio.
Right.
LTV CAC ratios will determine your paid user growth, they will determine your margins, your profitability, your cash flow. Cash flows multiples will determine your valuation and your ability to build treasury.
Right.
Simple.
So for the titles to succeed, basically the kind of acquisition that you can have of gamers, in a nutshell.
Exactly. In a nutshell. And if you can really give me opportunity to get gamers which have probability of becoming better LTV at a lower cost, I'll put my marketing dollars on you. As simple as that.
Right.
That's what has been our emphasis right from day zero. That how do we really give publishers at the life stage they are now. You could be a pre-launch studio which wants only testers.
Right.
You could be an early launch studio which needs certain amount of concurrency to kind of get
Right.
alpha beta feedback. You could be a launch who needs a huge amount of player concurrency to happen, or you could be a late stage studio like Valorant, and you want to build a very strong affinity of community to convert paying users.
Right.
So depending upon what the life stage is, you will have your own objectives, and if we can deliver those objectives by giving you better quality of gamers at a lower cost, you will
Right.
spend your marketing dollars.
Right. Right.
That's very simple. And that's what we started from day zero, delivering that value through our community, because we were able to explain to our community that if you want to become long term sustainable earning opportunities, you can't see it as a job. You need to see it as a gamer, and you need to understand publisher ROIs. So we have
Right.
drilled in the head of our community what publisher looks for.
That's
So
right.
that's the education. Because as I said, we are not running it. We are just an enabler. So if the decentralized publishing has to succeed, the gamer needs to understand publisher KPIs.
Right. That's how you
And
kind of combine the value for all of them together, right? And it's very transparent, because I think this is again very crucial point. It's nobody is getting shortchanged. It's if you are a tester on KGen, then KGen will perfectly map you to somebody who's looking for a tester like you, and then you will also make money in the process. So you will know exactly how you're benefiting, and then the whole ecosystem moves forward.
and your payment is on chain.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful concept, right? And the payment is on chain, and you track it with all the blockchain fundamentals. And I know it's a lazy chain, so it's not really dependent on the
No,
gas fees.
the payment is going on chain.
The payment is going on chain, and I think you've built all those infrastructure elements, right? The on ramp, off ramp is kind of very smooth, and there is a whole bunch of partnerships there. And then these publishers, these game studios, are able to also interact with you directly through APIs. Like there's no person in the middle, right? Once you kind of get into the story, you can actually pick and choose how you want to structure your campaign, or like how does
Chinmaya,
that magic work?
uh, I know your meta stint makes you a little elitist, that it could be a self-serve platform.
Right.
Uh, and in startup's life, a self-serve platform is a desire which needs to happen.
Right.
So what we want to reach to a self-serve, right? But I don't think we are there yet.
You're building it.
What we have done is we have created a self-serve calculator to start with for the publishers to play with cohorts,
Right.
campaigns, whatever it is.
Right.
Gradually, we'll do it. But today, what we have as a process is that our BD team uses that calculator to help the publishers understand it.
Right.
Once they really kind of got their budgets and KPIs, then we have productized on the community side everything, right?
Understood.
But on the BD side, it's still a white gloved enablement for the publishers, and
Hmm.
that's what we are doing. But the beauty is the proposition is very simple, and you don't have to do too much of handholding.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So now ground us with some numbers for publishers and studios, right? How many game studios, how many publishers are you working with?
So we have roughly in 24 months of existence, must have worked with 180 plus publishers, right? The way
Wow.
you need to the way you need to think it, especially in the blockchain space, Web3 space,
Right.
a lot of L1, L2s have really kind of come in and they build infrastructure.
Right.
But the one criticism for Web3 is there is lack of users.
Right.
And that's the fundamental role of KGeN in the larger ecosystem.
Right.
KGeN is an adoption layer.
Right.
It is bringing mass Web2 users to Web3 without the friction of Web3 being faced by the users or the gamers. Right.
Right.
So for us, it becomes a beautiful partnership with any L1, L2s, because L1, L2s want more games and applications to be built. But for applications to come on that infrastructure, they want users. And who is providing them users? KGeN. So
Yep.
that's why KGeN is sitting in as an adoption layer, which is working with multiple chains,
Right.
directly with multiple projects or via chains with multiple projects, and
Right.
offering them player liquidity.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that is why I think the gaming is considered to be the holy grail for crypto and Web3, to prove all the assumptions that people want to kind of validate, right? This value of
I
people.
think
Otherwise, there's a chicken and an egg story always.
I think that's on the consumer application side. On the blockchain, stable coins have already been the biggest use case which have come out. And
Hmm.
stable coins are
Hmm.
solving the cross border transaction speed, convenience, cost. I think that's the biggest use case which has already come out. Uh, I
Right.
think the ownership of IP and ownership of data is going to be the next, as you rightly said. Uh, I would not kind of link it to just Web 2, Web 3, but fundamentally it's the ownership of my skill and data is going to really be a very big use case.
The core principle. The core
The
principle.
core
Yep.
principle, and the third one is the fractional
Right.
ownership, right?
Right. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna switch gears now, because I think the other element that I found really fascinating about KGen is this, this community, right? This whole clan ecosystem, right? And I was looking at the website and on the Instagram channel, and then I found some stories of these wonderful people, you know obviously sometimes they're trying to find their identity at times, right? Like, what do they stand for? And finding an identity through gaming, and then also being able to prove value, at their homes, that we are trying to do something constructive. And then if you're generating and earning money, you're probably adding value to your skill and your learning curve, and trying to up level yourself. I found some of those stories and examples, right? So tell me about this secret sauce of this community, right? How is this community built in KGen? And then maybe throw in a couple of those stories that you were not expecting to see, and they surprised you, made you happy, and maybe stories that possibly also shocked you, coming out of the community.
So yeah, I think the insight was very simple for us, and both of us, Shank and I, are mechanical engineers and we have stayed in hostels. And
Right.
our insight was very, very simple. He said, yeah, uh, for an engineering college student,
Right.
if there was a friend who used to come to your room every day to asking for a smoke, right? And then suddenly he stops coming.
Right.
1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day. Then you will think, Sala, what is happening? Then you
Right.
go to his room and you see a full cigarette packet on his table,
Right.
to a premium brand. You think ये bloody कड़के के पास, how has he kind of got the money, right?
Right.
And then you get curious and you ask him, and he says, I am playing games and making money.
Hmm.
And that will kind of your mind that, hey, this is brilliant. And then that word of mouth will spread.
Hmm.
So that was our core insight that
Hmm.
for a college student, if he can really get some extra pocket money, uh, he would be, and if he's a hustler, he will do things, right? And we
Right.
said that we channelize this insight into gaming, which is an intuitive behavior for the this 16 to 25 audience. And they love to play games, they love to play friends, and if they can discover, and in that process, if this hustler can also become famous. And
Right.
how he becomes famous? Because he becomes Bhai, who is giving them the opportunity to kind of
Right.
really do that. So
Hmm.
he's become Bhai, he's making money, and he's kind of really having his own swag.
Right.
That will increase. So we
Right.
understand that piece very well. And that's how we started. So we got some first 10, and then 10 became 50, and then 50 really became today 30,000 such clan chiefs are on our platform, right?
Right. Right. And they're across geographies, right? So
I am very happy. They are in Brazil, they are in Bangladesh, they are in India from a
right.
local community. But today we are in 40 countries, right?
Wow.
And in India, and I really like it. Today, if we have to mobilize 500 people in at least 190 cities of this country, we can. Sitting here through a quest,
Right.
right? That's the power of this
Right.
this beehive which we have created,
Right.
uh, and which is really kind of working. And now with our upcoming token, once they start seeing they've only seen the instant gratification rewards. Based on the activity in the last 2 years, we'll give them ownership of the company. And when it gets listed and they make $100, $1,000, depending upon what they're getting,
Right.
trust me, that will kind of explode and open the tsunami of more and more people joining it. Because
Right.
then the true ownership and the distillation of ownership into money is happening.
Right. So that's really the example of like a network state where people are building it, and then they're
Exactly.
owning everything in that network state, and kind of building a
Yeah.
separate mechanism
And
to.
that's what we want to do. We want to
Right.
net a state with a centralized thing is a dangerous one.
Right.
And we want to build a state which currently we have only a 13 or 15 member elder council. We don't
Right.
have CEO titles, CXO titles, anyone,
Right.
right?
Right.
We want to gradually build community councils, and then we want to really take down the governance to almost like your panchayat level kind of stuff, so that
Right.
every micro community has its own governance.
Right, right. So for the crypto enthusiasts, you had the guilds earlier, then you had the DAOs, and you're now somewhere. I think KGeN is creating a newer definition of the network state of gaming that will probably emerge.
Actually, KGeN is enabling any guild, any DAO to kind of
Right.
come on the platform,
That's right.
because fundamentally this is not a closed platform; it's an open platform, which is
Right.
building protocols and tools for anyone to build their own clan identity, gamer
Right.
identity, and on the other side have access to publishers or advertisers so that they can
Right.
monetize it through their activity, become the owner of KGeN.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. Any story you remember, Manish, of a community person, that you were not prepared to answer? Because I want to understand the feedback loops that you have, right? Because this is all in public, everybody's kind of building it. So this has to you have to set up an engine to kind of be able to listen to everyone,
Correct.
in a very reasonable manner, right?
Correct. So, see, while I travel, Shang travels, we meet clan chiefs, we have clan chief meetups,
Right.
but we have a method to madness that within the community there's an evolution happens. A gamer, clan chief, then you have a city contributor, then you have a state contributor, then you have a community operator, Discord operator, so that's people keep rising up. And
Right.
since they are coming from the community, they also get a sense of progression, and that creates a pride that
Right.
now I'm my remit and my scale of operation has increased, and that
Mm.
these are 24, 25-year old, and suddenly they are handling a community contributor will be handling 50 clan chiefs, and he was a clan chief 6 months back. So that
Mm.
suddenly creates huge aspirational value for other clan chiefs to really kind of come and do that, right?
Right.
But the story, for example, and I was not prepared. You kind of really meet clan chiefs, and then you feel that they are doing it. And now in 2 years, I've seen the same kid, his confidence level, his ability to talk, his ability to address public, how he has changed. And
Right.
to me, like I've seen multiple such examples of confidence building, the self belief which they have found, and that's the stories you would have seen in
Right.
on Instagram and all of it. But what I
Right.
was not prepared to have in one of the clan chief meets in Kolkata, to have parents sitting in that.
Wow.
I was not prepared, and then there was this guy who was the clan chief winner of that month, and he would have earned, I think, 2 lakhs or 4 lakhs in that month, right?
Wow. INR.
His
Right.
INR, his mother came up to me, and she started crying, and because she was so happy that this kid is suddenly a changed person who's to kind of really um, in her opinion, was wasting time and is now suddenly has got a purpose.
Hmm.
And he's busy, he talks to people, he's become, in her words, zimmedar ho gaya hai. Uh,
Responsible. Yeah.
uh, and and she said it's because of you, because of KGeN. And I was not prepared for
Right, right. So there is this like that fine line, right? That people kind of keep have debates in their mind, right? Like the gaming tends to spoil people, or you know people can just kind of get disoriented. Obviously, too much of something is really bad, but if you use the right levers, one, obviously within the KGeN ecosystem you are learning a lot. You're kind of also also you're entertaining yourself, but at the same time, if you have a learning mind, you want to be a developer part of the KGeN network, you can possibly be that. You can come and help contribute into the ecosystem development. You can do so many things, right? So I think the possibilities of up leveling, upskilling yourself, and that gamification led feeding into the aspiration of the youth without making gaming a complete distraction or a net negative game. I think that possibility comes across through this model, right?
Because, see, I believe I'll draw a parallel to when I was growing up.
Right.
Cricket, while we were allowed to play, but it was
Right.
not an option as a career.
Right.
right? The option was doctor, engineer, CA, right?
Right.
Yes, you should go out play, but you should only, if you want to make this a career, then you will discouraged.
Right.
I think fast forward 30 years, the same thing will happen in gaming.
Right.
And we as KGeN is just laying the foundation of
Mm.
demonstrating in a tangible manner what are the possibilities,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which is where to me the proof of skill and the different skills which we are highlighting, capturing
Right.
is something we are building a kind of ikigai that you do what you like, but there is a skill also you have. And a combination of that is super useful to somebody sitting somewhere in the world.
Somewhere sitting somewhere. It could be a brand, it could be a publisher, it could be
Doesn't
anyone.
matter.
Yeah.
The way it will evolve and morph, in my opinion, is that today we are only
Right.
targeting game publishers.
Right.
But the persona of a gamer is not unidimensional.
Right.
You are capturing, you can augment the attributes to make it more relevant for any advertiser.
Right.
And fundamentally, that is going to really, really create a huge skill sets clamor, because then your ability to decentralize and disrupt the intermediaries, and the brands can directly reach to their consumers in a
Right.
completely productized platform in a
Right.
transparent manner.
Right. Right. And that's the third lever, right? So you've got we've covered the gamers, we've covered the community, we've covered the game publishers and studios. And the third element is the brands, right? Now
Correct.
other brands could now come into the ecosystem and then contribute and participate. Right?
Exactly. For example, even with these attributes, the biggest media dark cohort in the world is gamers.
Right.
Everybody want to reach to them,
That's your core.
and gamers are so finicky and they are so skeptic for any brand messaging.
Right.
They don't trust
They don't trust.
until unless you have built an endurance relationship,
Right.
engagement, which is happening in their community. They don't listen to you, right? So if we have the gamers, which are also these the opinion creators, because gamers typically are the early adopters.
Right.
They are the tech leaders. They
Right.
are the opinion formers.
Right. They jump head first. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's the same DNA, right?
Right. And most gamer companies and startups that I've encountered are people who have started who were gamers, and then they had some flash of insight, and then they created something of value. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the brands is the next one, which will. So for us, building this is like a two-headed thing. One side is the supply of campaigns, stroke rewards.
Right.
Other side is the capacity building to fulfill it, right? And what we have seen after 2 years, we don't have to really strive to keep augmenting capacity. We have
Right.
seen now, as the demand comes, capacity becomes elastic. So we have literally built a physical AWS,
That's
right?
right. Absolutely. That's a great way of saying it. And then there are network effects within this that
Within
play
this,
out between these two pillars.
exactly. So in October 22, we were worried about building the
Yeah.
supply.
Right.
Today, it's not. You can give us any amount of demand. Magically, it happens because
Wow.
the number
Scale up,
of
scale down.
scale up, scale down happens by the clan chiefs themselves.
Brilliant, brilliant, amazing, amazing. Got it. So, Manish, no, this conversation is not going to be complete if I don't talk about, the fact that you've built this in like about 2.5, 3 years, right? 22 November 22 to now, right? Like that kind of time frame. This whole KGeN ecosystem has come around, and there is obviously these, multiple tech levers, depth of tech levers, tools. The K Cash, the wallet, the treasury token, backed by the treasury, and then you also have the governance token, and then you're talking about the new token that will come and give you ownership rights, right? There is a lot that has happened. Now, my biggest question to you is, and I'm going back to the data point that you published openly in public, right? The last round that you raised, you kind of $30 million round, and then you reached a valuation of 500 million. Obviously that's and then this is a Web3 crypto company kind of reaching that milestone in a crypto winter of sorts. What happened and how were you guys focused on building this during the time when all the negativity was at its peak, right? Like how was the atmosphere at KGeN, heads down?
So, Chinmay, I think what Ishank and I have done is that we have kept right from day zero team completely devoid of the fundraising issues, right? For us,
Right.
there is a revenue, product, community dashboard,
Right.
and that elder members council keeps delivering that. The We were also very lucky to have initial believers like Axel in us. Um, Now, that first round of 20 mil, if it was not winter, would have finished in one day. All right. Coupled with our insistence that we will not do equity and token warrants, we will only do tokens. So, winter and our stubbornness dragged the process to 4 months.
Right.
Excel happened much, much early, right? What really helped us is not letting on the floor the operations versus the fundraising, right? And that's where our acquisition of IndiGG came handy because we acquired IndiGG and
Yep.
IndiGG acquisition came in with some cash,
Right.
right? And we used that cash to build it while we were raising these funds,
Right.
right? And that was also helpful for us to kind of really not let the operations any single day feel that there is a winter and the fundraising is difficult, right?
Right. Right. They were just focused on building. Yeah.
We're focused on building, and you as an investor know that when the discussion is happening and you're constantly seeing building, 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 and every month with our investor updates, we are growing in revenues, growing in community, the
Right.
confidence comes back,
Right.
right? So, decoupling the floor from fundraising has been my thing in Nazara also and here also, right? So, the second round, again, we didn't want to go out because we were profitable and we had balance sheet.
Right.
Uh, but having ecosystem, Aptos, Polygon, Game 7 happening with you is an important
Right.
aspect because you need to have, in any ecosystem, you need to have well wishers. And
Right.
especially when you are sitting in India, you are not covering multiple continents, there you need people to talk about you, right?
Right.
So having global investors in crypto was the reason for us to do that. But
Hmm.
again, the team felt happy when the milestone happened, but it's
Right.
not impacting the day to day of the team. But as
Right.
founders, obviously it's kind of really frustrating,
Right.
right? Um, but you have a very strong self belief,
Right.
and neither did you kind of move from the number which you had in your mind at which
Right.
you want to raise,
Right.
nor did you kind of waver from the number you wanted to raise, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Keep at it. Rejections, I'm not afraid of. Um, Rejections are a part and parcel of a founder's life.
Right.
Uh, all you need is two people to believe in you, four people to believe in you,
Right.
and keep knocking on the doors. Somebody will like you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's well said, and I think just keep doing your stuff. Right? Like you'll find if you're passionately driven about it, and you never want to give up. I think you will find those
You
believers. You
find those
just have to,
believers.
yeah, look for them a little bit more. So and as we kind of conclude this, Manish, I think this has been a very insightful conversation, and I hope kind of people and our listeners together really understand how KGen is built as a product. I would say think about it as a product, as a platform. I think potentially one of the biggest companies that will come out of India is what I hope it to be. In the gaming
No
space,
pressure. No
disrupt,
pressure.
no pressure, and disrupting the new thinking in global gaming, I would say, that level, right? So we are always, as an aspiring Indian, I always feel like, what is that globally dominating legendary company? I'm hoping KGen will be will be one of those. And there are obviously all the ingredients that one can see. It's kind of unconventional. It's charting and entering into new territory where you don't have all the answers. We're talking about this whole deep seek movement, trying to trigger people to think about how to build LLMs in India. But the story here in KGen, in contrast, is that irrespective of what cycle happened, KGen was always building tools for themselves to really enchant and then work with this gamer community. So that work is always in progress versus something that you have to create because there is an external trigger. But now coming to this conclusion, I saw a very interesting post on the KGen site, which is really about POGE, right? The essence, the proof of gamer essence, right? And it's all about agentic AI that will kind of get embedded into the KGen ecosystem. So maybe just let's close on that thought process. What is that world looking like? Because I think that is also going to be very cutting edge and innovative.
Two things here. I believe AI agents is going to be reality.
Right,
Uh, Whether for a normal walk of the life or for any other activity, AI agents is going to be reality.
right,
Now, that creates a beautiful conundrum that is Chinmaya a human or it's Chinmaya's agent?
right,
Whom am I interacting? And
right,
who is interacting with the platforms,
right,
with the ads or with the brands?
right,
And hence, I think what we are building is a proof of human. Sounds like a dystopian sci-fi, but it's going to be reality that humans will have to give their own proofs
right.
that I'm human.
So one is a
And
proof of human part of it.
correct. Uh, so it sounds like Agent Dhruv in the Bachpan when I used to read the comics. That Agent Dhruv is creating something, but this is how it is going to be.
Right,
Second thing, I believe that the data which is existing in the world will be applicable and available to all LLMs, right?
right,
But it's the new data which is going to come in of the player behavior, player engagement behavior, which is going to really define more and more sharpen and train the models,
right,
and which is where our ability to have those 300 million plus attributes and collecting more and more data, which is gamer engagement data, which is proprietary foundation data to us, when we kind of really combine it with other LLMs, could
right,
create a beautiful model framework for many gaming focused use cases to come out. Now, it could be for developers to really have what is the right controls for a particular shooting game or a particular racing game.
right,
It could be for game designers to really kind of have an AI creating the right game progression design or game economic design or tokenomics,
right,
right? It could be for gamers to really kind of really build more amount of activities on how do we get enhance our reputation or what kind of assets should we really create which could have secondary market value, right?
right,
It could be for traders to kind of
right,
look at which kind of tokens or which projects to look at. It
right,
could be for institutional investors. So we
right,
believe a lot of gameplay, game engagement data will be useful for multiple stakeholders in forward, and hence this proof of gamer engine which we are building, we are doing two things there. One, we are decentralizing it through an
right,
oracle system so
right,
that it's truly run by the community.
right,
The computing storage is not centralized so that
right,
trust can happen. It is tamper proof and it is a consensus mechanism on the
right,
output. Second thing, we are building this whole data feeding into this proof of gamer augmented engine, which can really become an open source for multiple AI agents to be created as we keep augmenting and training it. We are not going to train it. We are just going to kind of really keep building on proprietary data, have the verifiers so that the data loop can keep happening.
right,
And this engine becomes a bespoke gaming thing which multiple workflow companies can
right,
use
right.
so that their workflows can be used by agents. Our view is we'll constantly keep building a layer of ecosystem rather than being the end itself.
Absolutely. I think this is just brilliant. And I think if that becomes I think it has the potential of becoming the first open source enabler in the agentic world of AI for the gaming world. I think
That's what
I
we
think that's
want.
a good way to kind of wrap up this conversation, Manish. This has been like really insightful. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think I will encourage every listener to actually go down to the KGeN website, and we will make sure that it kind of we link the technical papers that are out there. Huge amount of knowledge that the KGeN team has shared, and that's what building in public is all about. So thank you, Manish. Hope to catch up with you in person soon.
Thank you, Chinmaya, for preparing so much. And that really speaks about your old research background that you don't come to a meeting without being prepared. Thank you for
It's
that.
the
Thank you
double
for
down
having me.
part. That's what it is. Great.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank
Manish. Thank you so much.